it's a big dark world. You don't need to know about that. Don't need to know about that. I'll protect you with my lies. You don't need to know about that. Don't need to know about that. Just let me love you. 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 Just let me love you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello. Hello. Welcome to what day is it? The July 17th, 2001 edition of the Turfgrass Zealot project. Live. Hello. Okay. So, hey, if you're just joining me, thank you. We're a couple minutes late here because I had to hassle the, internet connection this morning to make sure that we were fast enough. So I've been kind of on my toes about that, but I think we've got it now. I think we've got a great connection, right? So we're good to go. Good morning. I'm just letting people kind of drift into the live stream. Feel free to use the chat, say what you want to say, do what you want to do. Hey, my name's Dave Wilber. My friends call me the Turfgrass Zealot. Sometimes they call me, do that this way. Sometimes they call me the bear. And mostly what I like to do is I like to talk about grass. That grass, wait. Oh, see, this is all backwards. It's like the weather guy, pointing at the wrong state. Good morning. I am so stoked to be here. I had a lot of stuff to talk about today. And a lot of stuff just to kind of hang with and speak about and go through and share. And so let's get started. We'll get started with some stuff. First stuff, okay, is response and feedback to the Turfgrass Zealot project live stream has been pretty amazing, and I continue to be blown away. We're getting more and more people watching it while we're live, because we do it live. You don't know where that's from, and I love that. We're also just leaving the recordings up on YouTube, obviously, and I think I'm in the process then of converting all that audio to podcast format for the archival sense of it all, if that makes sense to you. So I don't know, man. I'm just stoked. I'm stoked that this is working. I've had this idea for a long time. I'm stoked this is working. So thank you. I can't thank you enough. Here's I shake my protein shake here. I can't thank you all enough for being who you are. I don't know, man. It makes me emotional. There's so many good people in the world, in our business and all that stuff, and I just feel like I'm in a good place with all this. And quite frankly, it's been a long time since I've kind of had that feeling. So that's good, man. That's really good. Okay, well, our live stream is filling up here. Again, feel free to use the chat, say what you want to say. That's fine. Somebody told me the other day I need a private chat because they don't want to say it in public, and I'm like, man, come on, turf heads, just say it. Or I guess create the fake account and say what you want to say. But so anyway, thanks again. I was a few minutes late this morning as we were just trying to get my internet connection and the rest of my gear working here. And as I sit here, I have 5 displays rolling. I have lights, 2 computers, fans, bear pictures. It's all here, and it's all got to kind of work in a certain way, So that's where I'm at with that. All right, what else are we going to talk about this morning? Well, let's get started with my new favorite subject. My new favorite guy, my new favorite person in the world. Let's talk about the Open, shall we? Let's talk about the Open. See if I can make some digital magic happen. Here we go. So I put this tweet out the other day and it got a ton of response. And I don't know, like, look at Paul Larson. Look at Paul Larson. Now, there was an interview on the Golf Channel with Paul the other day. I mean, here's here it is, right? Here's the picture. And I tried to get my hands on that interview in a copyright-free form. In other words, I had to write and try to get permission to use the interview today. And even though there's some fair use kind of stuff that says, hey, if I just react to it, if I talk about it, if I react to it, that's fair use. But they would not give me copyright permission. So rather than risk having my YouTube, my blooming YouTube channel shut down, rather than risk that, and risk the copyright strike and all the things that go with that. And I don't want to get into all that. I'm like, I can't show the video, right? But I think you can find it on the Golf Channel and NBC Sports. I think it's there. I looked for clips. I looked for other people who might have cut it up a little bit and just didn't quite find that. So we're not going to get to see the actual interview, but I just want to talk about this guy for a minute. Okay. Let's talk about Paul Larson for just a minute. I have been a Paul Larson fan for a long time. And full disclosure, Paul and I have never met. We have never met. We've been, gosh, how do I say it? We've been, I guess we've just been Twitter friends. That was going to sound weird if I said that. But Paul and I have just been Twitter friends. We've just kind of, shared some fun moments on Twitter. And I want to explain this a little bit to you all, if you don't. See if I can't make things work a little better here. Oh yeah, look, technology. This guy. Now look, I don't know that I'm a big rebel, but I really got tired. I think I got tired at a certain point of golf kind of telling me what I needed to look like, what I needed to do, how I needed to speak and all that stuff. And I remember the first time I was speaking at a conference and I dropped the F word. And of course, they heard about it. I was just being myself, and I don't know, like I have to be careful with that. I get it. I get it. I don't want to just, you don't want to do rebel for rebel's sake. I was speaking at a conference. I just want to be myself. Right. So, and I said something along the lines of, I don't give a fuck. And of course, again, heard about it after the thing. And I have to kind of rail that in. But, as you can see, I've let my hair get a little bit longer, although it's all falling out. That's another story. Since I had the COVID vaccine, my hair is falling out. And I mean by the brushfuls. I don't know. Doctor says it happens. So I spent all this time growing the Lebowski hair, and now it's turning into weird old hippie guy hair. Anyway, I digress. Hair. We're talking about hair, right? So I just, I'm doing my hair when I grew the beard, and I'm really enjoying the beard thing, thanks to, Brian Grill and some of those other great people who have encouraged me. Hey, you can be in the golf business and have a beard. But I'm not just in the golf business anymore too. So it's part of it. COVID changed all that. I mean, I couldn't go to my favorite hot chick barber, so there's that. Now this is Paul Larson. Okay. Just here's Paul. and Paul, you know, England, Kent, England, all that sort of stuff. You know, when we think of England, we think of a lot of different things. And when I think of England, I think of music. That's always kind of first in my head, you know? Beatles, Stones, all that sort of stuff. There's one band that I really love, The Cure. I love The Cure. Again, I can't play any Cure music here because of copyright issues and YouTube, so you're just gonna have to come along, you know? And I love The Cure, so Paul does too. And this is a shout out with his hairstyle to Robert Smith, lead singer, creator and brain of The Cure. This is a Robert Smith haircut. I love it, man. I love this guy. He's done great interviews. He's done great podcasts. There's a lot of stuff. You can search Paul Larson and find a bunch of stuff. Again, you know, I got to watch copyright. I got to do things a little differently, even differently than on a regular podcast or something because of YouTube. But this guy is just so fucking cool, man. And he's also brilliant. Like his greenkeeping strategies, I mean, it's Royal St. George's. It's not a, how do I explain this? It's not a dumb place. It's a fantastic place, man. Royal St. George's. It's a fantastic place. Let's see if we can get, we'll get some little Royal St. George's action here. I mean, this is Royal St. George's, right? Kent, England. I guess I should have brought up an English map. Everybody likes it when I do maps. But, here's the Royal St. George's. And sorry about the, oops. We don't want to do that. I don't know why all this stuff is on here. You'll just have to ignore that. But look at this place, man. Look at this place. This is Links Golf. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Links Golf. You know? And I love it. I freaking love it. Here, we'll do something over that. Here, we'll try to have a great. How do I say it? Let's have a better understanding. I don't know. I was trying to find a good map here. I guess it's kind of here. Kent. I'm screwing up. You would think that I would be on top of this, right? But no, as I click the button, everything goes to hell. One more time. Kent, England maps. Okay. Still doesn't show up. I don't know what I've done wrong. Anyway, we're talking about south and west of, here, we'll do it this way. We're talking about south and west of London, right? Sandwich. Here we go. I'm going to share this with you guys. This will be good. Let's drag it over. All right. So here it is. Like here's Royal St. George's. Okay. Sandwich. And then London, right? So, we're talking about out on the coast, basically. And it's kind of this inland estuary kind of landform. And when I was working with Robert Price, who wrote a ton of stuff about geomorphology and all that sort of stuff of these links line courses, and I started to understand that there's the big old dunes and all that sort of stuff, which everybody kind of knows about, but there's also these, these estuary type things, right? And I don't know, can I change this? Oh yeah, let's do this. You guys that are not watching, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to, this has got to be visual for a minute. All right, so again, here's Royal St. George's, here's the coast. This is kind of this low ground estuary kind of thing, right? And I'm probably gonna get it wrong when I speak about it. but look at the, look at the holes that are out here. Kind of a big piece of ground, right? Kind of spread out, and you'll see that. But if you look at the landforms, it's this, what do they call them? Hillocks or whatever, but it's the stuff that was laying low. And if we go back, let's see if we can't. Yeah, if you look at this again, it's just this great terrain, this great kind of low, everything's in motion kind of terrain, and Royal St. George's is just cool. It's just cool. There's the beach, along the way, and this place is cool, man. I'm telling you. So, like, as far as watching the Open Championship, and I screw up sometimes because I'm an American, and I'll say the British Open, and let's just get it straight, okay? It's not the British Open. It's not. It is the Open Championship of golf. Okay, don't say the British Open like I do sometimes. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. So the Royal St. George is just, part of the rotation, the rota of the Open Championship, and I love it. I love this place. I think it's fantastic. I love it even more because of Paul Larsen. I really do. I just think Paul is let's see, I gotta change the I think Paul is just that guy who for a lot of us, it's like, hey, it's okay to be human. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to step in front of the cameras on the Golf Channel and be yourself. And it's okay to say, hey, I'm influenced by a lot of things. I'm also influenced by this band, The Cure. That's really cool. What's wrong with being yourself? I love it. I love it. And I'll tell you something. I mean, think about this. Okay, this guy's known the event was coming, right? A few years or more in advance. And then COVID hits. And, England shuts down like most of the world. And it's like, are we having an Open Championship? Are we even going to be able to do this? What do we do? Can my staff come to work? And so I watched his tweets about all that, and I watched his I watched his concern, but also his chill, if that makes sense, right? I'm concerned, but I'm also chill about it. And he was like, we'll see what happens. So again, if you don't follow Paul Larsen on Twitter, you should be doing that, especially during this time. I don't think he's been tweeting a lot. I wouldn't be tweeting a lot if I had this going on at my place. Anyway, it's been really cool to watch this guy represent, and I'm sure there's some conservatives type people that are like, oh my God, greenkeeper stealing the spotlight, blah, blah, blah. Why didn't the guy get a haircut? Blah, blah, blah. No, not only no, but fuck no. This, we've had to live in this weirdness of golf for a long time. And good morning. Look at this. The chats are rolling in. I love it. Yeah, all right, guys. Listen to this. Listen, I'm gonna read this to you guys if you're not reading the chat. All right, guys, just a few housekeeping notes. Double cut on greens today. Spot rake, and also we're in A minor and turn up that reverb pedal. Oh my God, that's so good. Zach Bauer, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for dropping in. And I've got everything kind of changed around on my screens here, but man, I don't recognize that thing, but B. George, I love it. That is just such a great. Oh man. That comment just blew my mind. Also, we're in A minor and turn up that reverb pedal. So good, man. So good. All right. I'm in control. I'm in control of my emotions. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. All right. So we talked about Paul Larson. We talked about the Open. Let's see if we can't find the Open Championship, because I haven't watched this morning. I decided to sleep, right? I decided to sleep. So let's see if we can't pull up a leaderboard of some sort. Again, I have to watch copyright things. And all right, here we go. Here we go. Should we bring it on? Let's bring it on. I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble for this one. I think we're good. So what do we got? We got Louis Oosthuizen leading right now, but is he on the golf course? I guess he is, right? I don't know. I'm trying to figure this one out. So okay, so it's Oosthuizen, Morikawa, Spieth, and man, you know, come on, you guys. You know I'm a Jordan Spieth fan. I love that guy, and I love Michael Greller, his caddy, you know, who is a fine human being. And so I'm trying to figure out. Oh yeah, these guys all haven't teed off yet. So here's here's the rest of the field, right? So who's on the golf course? Robert McIntyre's finished, it looks like. Jason Kokrick's there. Tony Finau is on the, no, he's not on the golf course. He's there at 2:30. So there's not a lot of you know, scoring to report, right? Max Homa, again, if you don't follow Max Homa on Twitter, you should. What a great Twitter feed he has. So it's going to be some great golf today, right? Because these guys went after it yesterday. Colin Morikawa just playing amazing golf. Spieth is playing amazing golf. I hope Justin doesn't get in his head, or Jordan doesn't get in his head and just plays. You know, I'm a huge Louis Oosthuizen fan. I love this guy. So this is going to be fun, right? This is going to be some fun golf watching today. So check out the Open Championship, and yeah, there's some great stuff here. So I'm into it, right? I'm into it. I love the Open Championship. I love links golf. There's no I've never pulled any punches about that. I think you know, everything that's going on in the UK when it comes to preparation of the game, playing of the game, and all that sort of stuff. There's no, you know, it's they're doing it right. They're doing it right, and I love it over there. And my time in the UK, my time touring, my time meeting some of the people, just all that sort of stuff. I really would like to do more of that. I'm hoping one day that I can get to that. Well, but let's bring up one more thing. I think I can do this. Let's all right, we got to kill the music to make this work.
Ours are all over the place. That I never, even when I play myself, I'm like, it's never favourable, is it? Never seems to help.
No, so, the other thing that I've always felt being down at Royal St George's is that the wind drops and it gives you a full sense of security, and the next minute it comes back twice as hard. Now, the big question is it tidal? So does the wind pick up at certain times of day? So then are we looking for an early starter? Because it's beautiful. You go on their website, please. Everyone great. Go on the website for Royal St George's, and they've got a beautiful picture. And I would guess that was taken at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that is the time to play Royal St George's.
Yeah, you're right, actually. The morning when I'm doing spraying on the course or whatever, it's always first thing in the morning. It's a little bit cooler. The wind does tend to drop. And then before you know, it just eases up, doesn't it? And next thing you know, you're like, blimey, this is quite strong. And then it can die out a little bit, but like you say, it comes back in. And really, the biggest defence of the course is the winds. Unusually, we've had a lot of rain for the last 2 months.
Right, the big defense. Did you hear that? The big defense of the course is the winds. I'm trying to see when this was done on July 2nd. And again, I have to be really careful here with the copyright thing. I don't want to, I'm not here to steal anybody's content or anything like that. Anyway, I love what he just said, right? It's like the defense is the wind. And that's true. And from what I've heard, the wind can roar out there, and like they say, then it can just kind of quit down. And anyway, doesn't Paul have the great accent, right? He's just, oh, blimey. I love it, man. I love it. It's so Kent. Like if you spend some time around England, you start to hear the different accents and stuff. And this is just very, again, I wish I knew where Paul grew up, and I wish he could be here. Maybe we'll try to get, I don't know. I would love to do that. I really am not set up to, and my goal here was not to do interview podcasting. And the guy's been interviewed a million times, and I don't want to, I don't want to bug him, right? Let's hear a little bit more, and then we'll get on to the next stuff.
I'm quite well known, I think, for doing rain dances because it never rains here. So for the last 6 years, I've been praying for rain in summer. Of course, since May and June, it hasn't stopped raining. So normally we're brown. This year, at this moment in time, we're quite green, but it will dry out. If we get a good week, or especially a couple of good weeks, it'll burn out.
It's definitely drying out, by the way, definitely.
Quite quickly. So I'm always looking at my weather apps. I've got millions of weather apps. It says we've got a bit of rain for the next few days, then it's warming up and a little bit dry. So I'm hoping.
I'm always looking at me weather app. It's so good, man.
You want it fast and firm?
I do. But I don't want it. I quite like it with a bit of grass cover that we can still get firm and fast, but not too brown at this moment in time, just because of what happened in the drought in 2018. So it's more for a selfish reason that I want that.
Yeah, always think of yourself.
Well, of course, life's easier if we get a bit. It's always hand watering, and in the drought of 2018, everyone's out trying to water. Have we got enough water? So it's been a little bit relaxing not having to hand water so much. But the thing is, we do need it to dry out because the greens at the moment, they need to get firmer because I think
All right. So, and I think the golf course is where they want it to be, or where he wants it to be. And I think it's going to be a fantastic Open Championship.
It's a little bit soft.
Oops. I think it's going to be a fantastic Open Championship. And I think that Mr. Larson here deserves, if I had an award for Rebel Greenkeeper, or God, I don't know what to say. I mean, I just love the spirit that happens in the UK. There's so many good things, and I'll tell my entire Scotland story someday on an episode. We're not going to do that today, but I think there's just so much good, that goes on over there amongst the greenkeeping crowd. And yes, I know they have their stuff like everybody else does. And I know that not every golf course is Linksland, and, I get all that. I have watched the leather jacket, the crane fly, larva thing just destroy greens and see the heartbreak, there's so many, it is what it is, right? It's greenkeeping, and it doesn't always come easy. And, guys like Paul Larson make it look easy, and it's not, but there's a chill factor, and all that. There's this sort of thing where you say, man, I gotta let go of the things I can't control, I gotta let go of the things that, that don't matter. And then I gotta work on the things that I can control. And I think that's, that's maturity. And that's also thinking, hey man, I am not going to react to everything that every dumb golfer says about my world. I'm here, I'm stewarding this property, and I love that. I love that in bigly. I love it bigly. All right, let's see if I can't transition here a little bit. So turf heads, we're going to watch the Open Championship. We're going to root for Paul Larson. We're going to root for Jordan Spieth, right? because Jordan's one of us in a certain way. Ben Crenshaw told me once that Jordan Spieth thinks that greenkeeping is magic. So how about that? Huh? How about that? All right, so I have some news. What's kind of news? Let's take a look. So I get an email from Tom Doak the other day, and it says, Dave, I've got something for you. I wanna send it. Can I make sure that I have the right address? Right? Quick email from Tom. And I don't hear from Tom much, and I'm not expecting to hear from Tom much. It's Tom Doak, he's busy, right? These guys are busy. Everybody's busy. And, I love Tom. I've known him a long time. I have one of the original copies of the original Confidential Guide, which was mimeographed on a copy machine. I've been a fan of this guy for a long time. I've had the chance to work with him, around him, and all that. So that's Tom, and all of his guys, and everybody involved with Renaissance Golf has been nothing but good to me. And so it's it's always nice, right, to hear from Tom. See if I can do this. So in the mail, let's go back. So in the mail comes the book, right? And I've heard about the book. I knew the book was kind of out. I really wasn't paying that much attention. It's like, oh yeah, I got to buy one of these. I was just thinking about it, right? And I've got all his books. So I'm like, yeah, I got to buy this. and so it turns out Tom sends me a copy of the book, and he sent me a copy. I guess I was sent a copy of Getting to 18 as well. The next most recent book that he's done, and he wrote a nice inscription, and it was great. So, I guess it's just Tom. He's just such a chill character. But what I forgot about, and by the way, here's Jim Urbina standing out on the, I guess that's the 13th, the original Dunes on the 13th. And Jim was Tom's lead design associate on the thing, and Jim is a great guy. He lives just a few miles from me when he's home, which he never is, and he's just again, one of my favorite people. And I think Jim and I talked one year that I think we spent more time on the road together than we did home with our families, so kind of funny. But I've enjoyed my personal and professional relationships with all these people, so this is good, right? So anyway, in the mail comes this book, and I'm all, wow, this is cool. And but somebody had said to me, and I had completely forgotten that I had sent Tom, Jim, Sarah Mess. Sarah was working in the office for Tom, all the photos that I took during the construction of Pacific Dune. I had my camera with me, and I took a lot of pictures. I can't even remember. So we'll go into the dates and all that sort of stuff, but I just sent him whatever I had. I wasn't thinking about it, right? So then somebody sent me a couple days before this book arrived, and a couple days after Tom said, hey, what's your address? Somebody sends me a picture and says, here, look, Wilber, you're a photographer. And I'm like, what? And yeah, man, like, okay, so oh, Dave's pictures got used in the book. Oh, well, that's really cool, man. I mean, I had given them the pictures. It's great. Like, I'm happy to, I'm not like, oh, you got to pay me or anything. No, like, I just was happy to give them what I had. Golf course construction pictures. I have tons of them. Right? Every project that I ever worked on, I just used the camera a lot. I think also this might have been when I was kind of first. Did I have a digital camera then? I don't know. I may not have had. I may have sent them slides. I'm not sure these were digital photos. Thinking about the timing of it all. No. I think these were digital photos. Sorry. Yeah, I think so. I think I was carrying a digital camera at the time, but it was, God, it was big, it was a big, heavy thing, right? It was just, it wasn't like there was a camera on my phone, I guess is what I'm saying. I had to carry the actual digital camera and, all that stuff, keep it wet, keep it from getting wet. So then so I get the book, and the inscription is right here for Dave Wilber, with thanks for all your help on Pacific Dunes and for bringing your camera. Tom Doak, right? Signs the book for me. And I just sat there. I just fucking sat there, and I was like, oh my God. You know, that first of all, that he would think of me. Fantastic, right? That he would send me a copy of the book. Really fantastic. That he would use my photos, you know, my dumbass construction photos in any way. Fantastic. Because I take pictures of dirt, dozers and stuff. You know, I don't take, like, you know, my photos are not like, you know, I'm not putting them together for the, you know, for Sunset Magazine, right? Although I've been told I have a great photographic eye. That's not what I was doing. You know, there to build a golf course, right? We're not there to, you know, take pictures and set up pictures and all that sort of stuff. And, but I've always been a fan of, you know, some of the better golf photographers and also just other photographers. So yeah, I do okay, right? My creative brain kicks in when I'm behind the lens, and it's fun. So yeah, for Dave Wilber, and here's the inscription, and it's just like, oh my God. So what it did is it made me start thinking about the banking of Pacific Dunes. And so I thought I might tell the story just in a brief fashion. I feel like someday I ought to write this, but I don't really know. I thought about doing it once, you know, and then I realized how many people worked many more hours and did many more cool things than I did. And I would never want to take away from that. You know, I just kind of quietly did my thing along with a lot of other people. And it just wouldn't make sense to me to, how do I say it? It doesn't feel right to, I don't know how I get rid of all the text that's on this thing. Whatever. I'm trying to be a good steward of all this. This doesn't really work. The technology sometimes bothers me. At any rate, here we go. So I have it, you know, let's just go through it really quickly. So what was happening is that I had worked, I had the great fortune in the mid to late 90s to work with Mark Parsonen in the development of Kingsbarns Golf Club. Kyle Phillips was the architect. There were American and Scottish people involved. And Mark, I had done Granite Bay Golf Club as Mark's construction consultant and all that stuff. And so Mr. Parsonen said, you know, I'm working on a thing in Scotland. Are you interested? And I'm like, of course I'm interested. You know? And Clay Payne is right. All involved with Renaissance are nothing but class. They're a huge part of some of the best experiences in this industry. My best experiences in this industry. Oh, okay, sure, of course, Clay Payne. Working at Ballyneal for a time as an assistant. Thank you, Clay. Thank you. That's a great thing, man. Yes, and I would agree. Everybody involved with Renaissance Golf has been, you know, more than fantastic. So let me stay on track here. Get my mind organized. So I had done Kingsbarns, and I think I made my first trip to Scotland in like 1996 to look at Kingsbarns before they had broken ground or done much of anything. And my directive there was to work on the team and essentially to be the translator, because Mark was having a hard time, you know, with turf head language. And he had made connections with Walter Woods, and Walter had retired from being the head of agronomy, the course manager, whatever you want to say, from the St. Andrews Links Trust. Arguably, you know, well, certainly one of the most famous greenkeepers in the world. And I'd heard of Walter. I had never met Walter. The interesting story is that Walter's daughter lived not far from my parents in Colorado. True story. So I had actually met Walter's daughter before I met him. And she's great Scottish accent. I believe she still, she and her husband still live in the mountains. And so I knew all about Walter, and I'd heard all the stories. I'd heard the good, the bad, the ugly, right? From a bunch of different people. I knew the guy was hardcore. I knew he was, not always fond of Americanisms and, all that stuff, right? And so, like, who am I? At that time, we're talking, 1996. I don't know, what was I, 30? Not even 30. Yeah, just a little younger. And I had hung my shingle as a consultant in 1992. So, I'm 4 years in, and I had a couple of really good breaks. And Mark Parsonen was, of course, one of them. And I wasn't going to say no to Mark. He's just one of those people that you couldn't say no to, Sure, Mark, I'll go to Scotland, and, you can pay me, next to nothing. And, and the cool thing is, I understood that, that I needed this kind of stuff. So I go and, I meet Walter Woods, and again, I'll tell that story in a different way. But Walter was pretty hardcore with me, and he shook me out pretty hard. It's like, does this kid know anything? And, you know what I did? I tried not to be the ugly American. I tried not to be the know-it-all. I tried not to be a lot of things that a lot of people that he had met who he disliked were. I tried not to be an egghead. I wasn't going to just hit him with facts and figures. In fact, the one story that I will tell is that I pulled some soil tests out of my bag because they had sent me soils from St. Andrews and from Kingsbarns, and I wanted to see, I was just intensely curious. And as soon as I pulled them out of my briefcase, Walter just told me to put that shit away. He said it didn't matter, like, okay, back in the briefcase it went. Anyway, long story short, Walter and I became friends. He became a mentor to me, an uncle. Really, just had a great. I guess I could dig up some of the pictures of he and I. And from Walter, I learned the. I learned to understand links golf in a way that I don't think anyone else could have taught me. Now, why am I talking about this? Tom Doak had spent time with Walter when he was caddying at St. Andrews, long before anybody knew his name. And when I mentioned Tom, now remember, the Kingsbarns project was not a Doak project. It was not but when I mentioned Tom being an acquaintance, like Walter was like, oh, I like him. I like how he thinks. And showed me his manuscript copy of the confidential guide that Tom had written. And so we had some common, like that was one of our first commonality kind of moments. And I listened to Walter, and I didn't do anything wrong around the guy. John Philp worked for Walter at St. Andrews, and then he became the course manager at Carnoustie. And I was lucky enough to meet John through Walter prior to the 99 Open Championship at Carnoustie. And I fell in love with John Philp too, I just full on man crush on both of these guys, and they're much different people, but it was just, in a good way. So again, I had another teacher, if you will. I had another mentor. I had another way to understand and translate the art of linksland greenkeeping. Both of these men, phenomenal. So here's John Philp, right? And he gets hammered in the 99 Open because the weather was so different and everything, and everybody thought that was just like the overzealot greenkeeper, was gonna, had done all this bad stuff. And John was very outspoken, and he told Phil Mickelson and those guys stop bleeding like sheep. This is, you win 10 million pounds for, or 3 million pounds, whatever it was at the time. Shut up, play golf. This is links golf. It's not for everybody. It didn't come over very well. It didn't, John was just not, he wasn't media trained, right? He just said it how he said it. And I love that. So anyway, we had, I had gone through all this, and like every time I went to Scotland, to do anything for Kingsbarns, what I did is I went a week before, or at least some days before, I had to do anything at Kingsbarns, and I went and then, or I would stay after, or both, and just go meet people and go see golf courses. I get on the trains and God, I hitchhiked one time. I just had my backpack and I just went for it. I didn't have my golf clubs. I wasn't sure I wanted to play some of these places, and I ended up doing that. But my first meetings with everybody was never with the clubs. And I went and I got to see, some of the great golf of Scotland and England and Ireland by doing that. I did it on my own. I did it, out of my pocket. And it was great. So, and I'm a turf head, right? So I'm looking at the grass. I'm looking at the turf. I love the turf. This is great. And I'm learning. And I'm seeing what it is. And I'm realizing that this style of golf is just so phenomenal. Links golf is phenomenal, right? So while I was on one of my trips to Scotland, I don't exactly know how it all went down, but I ended up getting a call from Tom Mead and Jim Urbina from Renaissance Golf, and they wanted to know if I would like to come and take a look at the Apache Stronghold, the site at the Apache Stronghold with them in Globe, Arizona, like 80 miles out of Phoenix. And I'm like, yes, anything Renaissance is doing, yes. I don't know exactly how I got to that. I don't know how I got the phone call. I don't if it was from Tom Mead maybe or something. I don't know why they called me. I'm a little foggy on that one, but I do remember that I had to change my travel plans, and I flew directly from Scotland to Phoenix. And they lost my bags. When I got to Phoenix, I had no luggage. I just had my backpack. And I had to basically, grab a rental car and drive to Globe, Arizona, and be on the golf course the next morning. And I think I got into Phoenix about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night. So I didn't really get to sleep. And I meet Tom Mead and Jim Urbina, and we go walk the Apache Stronghold site, talking about soils management, talking about, construction technique, talking about soils, right? It was great day with those guys. I was jet lagged. I was motion sick. We're jumping over these arroyos and little things, and we're on this crazy piece of ground, and we meet some of the people from the tribe, and it was nuts, right? It really was. It was surreal. And I flew out the next morning. We had dinner together at the casino. The Apache Stronghold Casino was there, and we had dinner together that night. I barely remember. At that point, I was completely in a fog, and so it's like, okay, on to the next thing. And I flew back home to Sacramento the next morning, and I went to bed, and I think I slept for 36 hours or something like that. I was just exhausted, from the whole thing, but stoked, right? So stoked to be at the Stronghold. That was so cool. Tom Mead told me later that I was the first outside consultant that those guys had ever hired. That was weird, right? And Mead insisted that I get my daily rate, which I think at the time was, $1,000 or something, and make sure you send the bill. So I did. And the Stronghold turned out pretty good. I mean, I went back a couple times. Jim Urbina ran the job. Jim and I got to like each other. We had a lot of things to say. Jim had endless questions for me. It was great, right? He razzed me. I mean, there was all kinds of good stuff that went on there. So I get a phone call, fast forward to 2003. No, I'm sorry. Fast forward to 1999. Excuse me. I get a phone call from Jim in 1999. Oh, probably November, and he says, we have a project that I can't really talk about. It's in Oregon. Would you want to work on it with us? And the answer is yes. Of course I would. Okay, cool. I'll talk to you later. And then I get a call a couple of weeks later and he says, okay, so the project's in Bandon, Oregon. And I had heard about Bandon Dunes. I had met Jimmy Kidd in my travels, David Kidd's father. Jimmy was at Glen Eagles as the course manager / director of agronomy for Glen Eagles. I'd met Jimmy. He was a friend of all of those guys, in Scotland. Thought Jimmy was great. Don't know if I made any kind of impression on him. He told me his son was a golf course architect and then he was working on a project in Oregon. So I'm putting all this together, right? And then I kind of get this feel, that this next golf course at Bandon Dunes is going to be a Tom Doak design, and that this piece of property that they were thinking they were going to wait a few years on had a huge fire and it burned all the gorse off there. And if you've never seen gorse, look it up. Right? That's all I'm going to say. And I'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, Jim says, can you meet us January 4th in Bandon? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. How do I get there? He says, well, you fly to North Bend, however you can get to North Bend. There's an airport there. Okay, cool. Later, I realized it was just much easier to drive from Sacramento to Bandon rather than deal with the airlines. It took me an entire day to get there. Fly from Sacramento to Portland, quick flights, right? But then waiting and trying to figure it all out. So I don't know, man. I do what I do. Like I kind of I don't really know what I'm getting into. And I've not met the golf course superintendent at Bandon Dunes, Troy Russell, but everybody says, well, you'll meet Troy when you get up there. And I didn't reach out to Troy beforehand. I just kind of went and Jim was telling me, hey, this is a stealth mission. By the way, guys, this is going to be longer than an hour episode today. So it was a stealth mission. So we get there on January 4th. Now look, everybody thought the world was going to end, at Y2K, right? January 1. So I remember buying this plane ticket thinking, geez, I don't even know if, what's going to happen. We were laughing about that. So January 4th, I get there on January 4th, right? I fly up there on the 3rd. I stay at the lodge at Bandon. They had arranged all that. And I remember the waves crashing. I could hear the waves crashing in my hotel room, and I was like, this place is, this is nuts, right? I got there the night of the 3rd. And, looking around, I'm like, this is so interesting to me. And I can't wait to see the golf course. And I can't, it's like all this stuff, right? And, this is going to be good. This is going to be good, man. And, so Tom and Jim were there. I think we met the next morning. We went out to Pacific Dunes. I believe a couple days later, Tom Mead and Brian Slonick showed up, if I'm not mistaken. I know Tom Mead was there, who at the time was working for Renaissance Golf. And Tom had been, the golf course superintendent at Crystal Downs, and he had done High Point with Tom Doak. And Mead and I were friends, and we were good thinkers. And Mead worked a lot on, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, Mead had done some, some things for Core and Crenshaw. I mean, he had Sandhills. He'd done some stuff for Sandhills and Mr. Young's Cap. And so, we were all talking, right? All of us, this is a small community. You guys know that. We're all talking. So anyway, I get there, all these people get there, and we're walking around this site, and it's blowing my mind, right? But also, you got to understand that all this burnt gorse, a lot of it was just like, it was like creosote, right? And I destroyed a jacket. During those 2 days, it was all ripped, and oh man, it was like, and the weather was crazy. First it's raining, then it's sunny and all that. And I meet Troy Russell, who at the time was the golf course superintendent, and I meet his assistant, Ken Nice. Both Oregon State people, both great people. Ken is now the director of agronomy for all of the Bandon properties. And Troy, I don't know, Troy kind of looked at me like he didn't know why I was there, you know, and he didn't know who I was. And then later he said to me, he said, I'm sorry, I should have been a little kinder, but you know, a lot of people want to be involved in this thing. And yeah, I'm used to turning people away. And I'm like, that's fine, Troy, don't worry about it. You're good. You're good with me. Anyway, we had talked a lot about moving soils and how to move soils and stuff during the stronghold. And I had talked to Jim Urbina a bunch about how we destroy these sites. That we destroy some of the great soil structures and some of the drainage pictures and all that. And I worked with a guy named Barry Cooper at Kingsbarns, who was like a drainage expert and a physical soils guy, right? And drainage expert in England and Scotland that's a somebody, right? So, and Walter told me Barry Cooper's the man. You listen to every word this guy says. So I did. I listened to Barry Cooper. It was fantastic. And we applied a lot of that stuff to the stronghold. You know, instead of taking a hill apart, you know, like cutting into it like a loaf of bread, you know, we strip off the top and move it a different way. We came up with a new way to work soils on a construction site. And a lot of it had to do with tiptoeing around the place. And a lot of it had to do with not making a fairway a haul road. All the things that I had talked about with Jim, like he was listening to, right? So we get up to Bandon and, you know, there's some problems, right? There's like the sand has blown off the cliffs thing. What do we do? You know, and what do we build greens out of? And how does this all work? Right. And so we just, you know, we went at it in a very, I can't even tell you the intensity level. You know, a lot of smart people around, right? A lot of smart people. There's a lot of smart architects, obviously, on the Renaissance team. Mead being more of a turf head, and the originator of turf head, by the way, was, you know, he and I had a different language to speak but he knew how to speak architect too, right? So it was intense. I mean, we'd sleep a couple hours a night because we'd be all up all night talking about this stuff, and it was great, right? And I was there with Tom and Jim as they shaped some of the first greens, number 5, 10, 11. And I watched the soils move off the dozer blade, and we talked about the differences in these sands from the upper to the mid to the lower. And, you know, we took Tony Russell came out with his Traco. We dug some big holes trying to figure it out. And we came up with a plan. I made 3 trips up there in the next few weeks, and we made a plan. We came up with a plan, and the plan was about tiptoeing around the golf course. And you hear Tom's, he did a recent podcast with Jay Blasey, right? And you should hear that because we talk about tiptoeing around the golf course, and people didn't know that we were serious about that, right? And I remember Tony took a Traco across an area that we weren't going to drive on, and you know, Jim yelled at him, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are serious about this? This isn't just talk." Like, and we're like, "No, we're not going to just destroy the soil structure unless we have to. And if we do take something apart, we're going to put it together the same way, so it's all going to match up, right? And we're going to drain things a different way. We're going to do things differently here." And that was my thinking. You know, it was my thinking based on everything that I had seen in Scotland and all this sort of stuff. And Jim applied all that the best he could, and I drove those guys nuts. I drove them nuts for a little bit. I remember standing there with Don Plasek when he was shaping like the second green at Pacific Dunes, and we were trying not to bury some of the good sands because those upper sands had a little bit of organic matter in them, and they had tested out to be really, really alive, you know. And we wanted those saved. We wanted to material manage there in a good way, and I was serious about it. So we were, you know, so I was showing Don how, you know, like when the curl comes off the dozer blade, essentially we're burying good stuff. So the idea is to push it out, shape, push it back in, right? And I was driving him nuts. I could tell I was driving him nuts. And Tom told me later, "You're driving us nuts with this stuff. I mean, you really are, you know, so far over the top. I hope it's worth it." And I'm like, "It's worth it. It's worth it. Listen, I wouldn't put you guys through that if it wasn't worth it. We can't be burying all the good stuff. We can't take the good sands that are on top and put them on the bottom. The huge lesson that I learned at Kingsbarns. And as I stuck my solo probe in golf courses all over, the UK, looking at linksline golf, I realized there's a huge difference. Yes, this is sand, but the sand that's up at the top versus the mid versus the bottom versus the way bottom, these are different. They're different biologically. They're just different, right? So we want to preserve that. And through the fastidious, is that a word? Through Jim Urbina's tenacity and the dedication that the rest of the gang at Renaissance Golf had, we did it. Like, they did amazing work. They got to do their architecture. I got to have the soils that I want. I'm going to tell a couple of quick stories here. So we figured out a couple of dunes that were like the best dunes as far as the sand source goes, that we could honey hole, that we could, and we figured out how to move that sand and how to use that sand so that we could replate the holes that are out by the ocean where the wind has blown all the sand off. We figured out what that was going to look like. We figured out how we were going to build greens. And again, it was about tiptoeing around, but some stuff has to be constructed, right? So how are we going to do this? How are we going to move the sand in? How are we going to shape it? How are we going to, we went through all that. We had a method. Idea being is, you don't want a bunch of different greens out there, even though it's links land, but for the stuff that we were re-land forming, we had to figure it out. We did. I'm trying to think of the dates. I know that the USGA annual meeting was it in San Francisco or was it in Monterey that next winter or later that winter? And a bunch of the USGA types came up to Bandon. I think Tom invited them. Mr. Kaiser invited them. Ron Reed was there. Pat Gross, a couple of the agronomy guys, Matt Nelson and Pat Gross were there. I believe Pat Gross, maybe it was just Matt. I don't know. But there were a bunch of USGA guys came out, right? And it was raining like hell. It just happened to be this really rainy spell. And I mean, and guys, we're talking about Gore-Tex wouldn't cut it. Like, my Gore-Tex rain suit meant nothing there. I went to fisherman's gear, like all the Oregonians said to do. I had, full on grunding, whatever it is, Grundig or whatever, deadliest catchwear, right? It was kind of funny because the only stuff that I could find that fit me was like bright orange, and it was weird. The Great Pumpkin. Anyway, I'm standing out there, I'm watching, because I spent a lot of time watching, material come off of dozers and off of tracos, and I'm standing out there watching. And a bunch of, probably 4 or 5 of these USJ guys walked up. Ron Reed walked up. A bunch of people walked up because they were out there walking, touring. And there were a lot of people who were walking around and touring on Pacific Dunes. So that was nothing new. And these guys walked up and they're talking to me. Hi, Dave. Hey, Ron. Hi, Mr. Reed. How are you? Hey, Matt. How's it going? I forget who else was standing with us. It doesn't really matter. And we're standing in the bunker on the 5th green. And they had just gotten done digging this bunker and kind of reshaping it a little bit. And we're standing, right? And these guys started asking me questions. And they're like, well, what are you going to use for greens mix? And I'm like, you're looking at it. That's the finished green. Oh, did you core that out? No, we did not. And, oh, well, why? Because why wouldn't you? And I said, well, and then we talked about, what David Kidd and his guys had done at Bandon. They didn't build USG greens out there. They didn't, sand, tons of sand everywhere. And, oh, so you're not going to use USJ style greens. You're not going to drain that. No, we're not. And I'm trying to be cool. Like, I just want to be nice. 2000, I was kind of a dick sometimes. And so, and And it's raining like hell. These guys are melting in their Gore-Tex, USGA Gore-Tex suits. And so then the questions start coming. And it's so funny because we're standing in a bunker, right? And the question is, what are you guys going to do for bunker sand? I said, you're looking at it. And they're like, well, are you going to drain this? No, this is the bunker sand. We're going to use native sand. This is links golf. We do links golf here. And well, you know, and I don't know, somebody says, well, you should definitely put drainage in the bunker. Maybe it was Larry Gahuli was with them. Well, anyway, we're standing in the bunker. It is raining like hell. And this guy's telling me that we need to drain the bunker. And I said, do you see any water at your feet? And I kind of look around. No, we're just standing on wet sand. And I said, do you see any water on that green? Do you see any standing water on the green? No. Do you see any standing water in the approach? Do you see any? No. I said, right. That's what we're doing here. That's that's what this place is. That's Links Golf. And they're just looking at me like I have 7 heads. You know, they're like, well, you're going to need drainage. Oh, no, we're not. Some areas are going to have to get drained. Yes, we'll figure that out. But, but I'm not sticking drainage in this. I'm not going to go through the effort, the cost, you know, all this sort of stuff to put drainage in this little bunker that we're standing in. What? No. And they all kind of looked at me, and then, you know, they wandered off, and I'm standing there. And I told that story at dinner that night to all the Renaissance guys. And and of course, you know, for a second, I'm second guessing myself, because that's what I do. You know, I work things over in my head constantly. Tom Mead is laughing at me. They're all laughing at me because I'm so, you know, twisted about the whole thing. The other thing that was really cool about Pacific Dunes is that Mead and I spent a lot of time talking about rough, you know, and how to create a good linksland rough, and how do you do that? How do you grow it in? How do you get it to be gnarly in an area where it rains a lot? And I talked about some of the things that I had seen, you know, around the UK, and you know, and it was like, you know, we're just talking about the poverty nature of fescue, and how you get that kind of 2-story thing. Walter used to talk about the second story. And he used to talk about how, you know, a good rough is the rough that you don't lose your ball in, but it's tough to get it out of. And when he would say that to me, sometimes I'm like, I don't understand. And the one thing he said to me is, he said the rough at the old course is not where to look, because it's just trampled and there's too many people out there and stuff. And so we went and we looked at some, you know, we went to some different places. And Walter took me to the first golf course. He was head greenkeeper of it, at a place called Tillicootree, which is a little more, you know, and we went and looked at Tillicootree, and we went, you know, all over. And I started to get it about the second tier. You know, the idea was, hey, if I throw my golf ball and it lands in this, it's not going to disappear. It's not going to go and be gone, but you still are going to have, you know, a ball that might be nestled in a little bit. It's going to be tougher to get out. And then you have that sort of second story, you know, of wispiness and all that, but it's not so thick. And so at Kingsbarns, we would find really gnarly soil. They call it ballast, you know, gravel, and we'd put gravel in some places to create a poverty situation so that those areas wouldn't overgrow. Walter was always on me about fescue and how we Americans did it wrong, right? Because it would just turn into the jungle, and that's not how you do it. And that's not, you know, you can't water it, you can't, you know, all this stuff, right? And you know, in northeast Scotland, I said west a while ago, and that's not right for sandwich. I'm sorry, that's east. But in the northeast part of Scotland, in Fife, you know, they only get 26 inches of rain a year versus the 100 that they get on the west coast, right? So there's not a lot of rain. You heard Paul Larson talking about it. There's not a lot of rain here. Not a lot of rain on the eastern side of things. Excuse me. I don't know. I'm west from east. God damn. So anyway, the whole idea was, hey, we got to figure out how to make this poverty, right? So Walter showed us this, you know, putting in ballast in a lot of these areas where it was this gnarly stuff, you know. Mark Parson was worried that somebody was going to hurt their club on it or something like that. And Walter's like, no, don't worry about it. The fescue will cover it. And we had large areas that we put a lot of nasty soil in so that the fescue wouldn't do well. And at first, as a guy who's supposed to make grass do well, to hear, let's build an area so the grass won't do well. Yeah. So we talked through all that. Mead and I talked through all that. We talked through the brilliance of Walter Woods, because he had met Walter and spent time with Walter. And we talked about the brilliance of that technique. And we went out and we looked at some areas on Bandon Dunes, where the water was running, where you couldn't, where the water's going to go downhill, and sometimes it's going to stay in a spot. And the fescue was getting kind of jungly, and you throw a golf ball in there and it's hard to find. And the caddies were saying, hey, we're losing balls here on the left side of this because it's sloped to the ocean. And we talked that through, it was really good, right? And we talked it through with Troy Russell and with Ken Nice, and kind of everybody kind of understood, hey, there's some work to do here. And then we had the famous brown grass slideshow. All of the Renaissance guys were there. I think they were all there. Maybe save Eric. I don't know. But there was a whole room full of Renaissance guys. Me, obviously Tom Mead, and a whole bunch of guys from the Kemper Sports Organization were there. Mr. Kaiser being a partner in Kemper Sports, right? KKL, Kemper, Kaiser, and Lesnick. And that was kind of the parent company of all this. And Tom has a rack of slides. Yes, there were slides back in the day. Tom has this, and he shows this slideshow of a whole bunch of great links courses that he'd seen, Scotland, Ireland, all over, right? And it was funny because the slides kept getting gnarlier and gnarlier, and the grass kept getting browner and browner. And these guys from Kemper Sports, who really, were kind of like, I think their offices around Kemper Lakes and stuff, in Chicago, right? Chicago guys, Mike Kaiser, Chicago guys, it rains, it's beautiful there, things are green, the standard is really high. These guys are all members at places like Butler and Olympia Fields and Chicago Golf Club, and they know that world, right? And Tom is showing just the gnarly grass, and finally one of them says, the retail golfer will never go for this. You can't do this. And he was just almost shaking when he said it, the retail golfer. So we, of course we grabbed onto that. Mead and I are just looking at each other, and it's like, it's links golf. We can't do this wrong. We can't do injustice to links golf here at Pacific Dunes. David Kidd hadn't done injustice. They had done it right, and God, Bandon Dunes is a good golf course, and I'm such a David Kidd fan now. I didn't know David before, and I was kind of working on the Tom Doak side of things, and I think there was a little bit of healthy competition between David and Tom and all that, but I ended up, of course I met David's father, and I ended up being a very big David Kidd fan, and I am a huge fan of David's work, and I'm amazed at the coolness of some things he's done. And I've actually gotten to see a couple of things that he's done that a lot of people haven't seen, like the thing he did in Hawaii and stuff like that for Charles Schwab that, not a lot of people get to see, right? So, and Majorca, he did a golf course in Majorca that I thought was phenomenal. And I just love it. So I love all these guys, right? I mean, the background is links golf, and the architecture is spot on, and the desire and the dedication and the spirit is spot on. So getting to work around that, getting to sit and listen to hear guys like Bruce Hepner and Brian Slonick, Brian Snyder, all of those people talk about architecture and talk about that stuff. And we went on to do some cool stuff. And we, Bruce Hepner was the lead design associate at Cape Kidnappers, and I was fortunate enough to work on that. And Ballyneal, I was fortunate enough to work on that. Jim Urbina did Sabonic, and I was able to, work a little bit there. And and honestly, I'll tell you something, man, I screwed up. Like, this is an honest moment right now. I'm going to have an honest moment with you. The stars got in my eyes a little bit, because I was so fascinated by all this, and it was so cool, and it was so big, and it was so, just kind of gigantic, right? Starting with Kingsbar and Pacific Dunes, the other things that I was working on, the other things I was getting to see. And it was like, I think I kind of lost my way. When my dad died in 2004, Tom Doak told me that I should be really careful because, you know, a loss of his father was a really big deal to him, which I think had happened during the Pacific Dunes thing. And I didn't really know that it had impacted him that much. And I didn't know it was going to impact me so much. And I started a bit of a downhill slide. At first, the stars were in my eyes, and I was just, you know, I was traveling. I think, you know, in those years, I was way more than 230 days and nights a year away from home. And I could feel myself breaking. You know, by 2003, 2004, you know, I remember 2003, I came back from Australia and New Zealand to find a guy who had been one of my assistants, who was a superintendent at a senior tour stop in Northern California, he absolutely blowing it. And I got the 911 call, and I went and we tried to, you know, pull it together for the 2003 Schwab Cup in October. And I hadn't been home, and I still wasn't home. And it was, you know, and my whole fucking world just was coming apart. And I couldn't control it. You know, 2003, and then 2004, my father died. And all of these things happened at once. And I was trying to be the rockstar agronomist, or thought I was being the rockstar agronomist. And I forgot the basics. I forgot taking care of people the right way. My ADHD was at an all-time high, and I was, you know, I was famously not returning phone calls and not doing it right. And it was very costly. It was costly business-wise. It was costly personal. You know, some really great personal relationships with fellow turf heads came apart because they're like, well, what's wrong with you? You know, you don't remember me? Like, yeah, I remember you, but, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's like, well, fuck you. I don't care. You know, I rely on you. You know, I can't get a hold of you. You won't return my phone calls. It wasn't on purpose. It just, you know, at a certain point, my system couldn't keep up because I had set this whole thing up, right? So for me, Pacific Dunes, you know, was the start of like a really, really good thing that ended to be kind of a really, really bad thing. And by the time 2007 rolled around, you know, it was like, when the golf business crashed, I was crashing in all kinds of ways, right? So I screwed up. I really screwed up. One of my biggest regrets is I was so late delivering soil tests for people. You know, I was so far behind delivering soil tests. And one of the people that I got behind with was Ken Nice and Troy Russell at Bandon Dunes. And they were like, Dave, this is bullshit. And they let me go, they stopped working with me. And I tried to make excuses, you know, and I tried to hold my head up high. And I remember meeting with Ken and Troy and hearing that, you know, that we were done, that they weren't going to continue working with me because I'd failed to deliver. And I fucking, you know, I got in the rental car. No, I guess I had driven my own vehicle, and I had an 8.5 to 9 hour drive back to Sacramento. And I can't even tell you the darkness that happened during that drive. I mean, I really just, there was a certain point where I wanted to just turn the steering wheel and see, you know, hit the tree and be done with it kind of thinking, right? I can say that now because, you know, I've dealt with all that, but it was a horrible moment. And I had a few others like that. I had a few other really good friends who were like, hey, you know, people that relied on me, you know, who couldn't rely on me anymore, saying, hey, fuck you, you know, you got to go. Can't do business with you. I love you, Dave, but I can't do business with you. Somebody said, you know, and I'm like, well, if you can't do business with me, you must not love me too much. because, you know, my life was work-life integration. I had no separation. I still don't separate that stuff well. So anyway, Pacific Dunes, the start of something really good, right? Start of something really good. And also the start of something, a bunch of huge life lessons. And I'm glad that I went through all that. And it's really hard kind of to tell the story because, you know, that success. But at the end, you know, I really got my ass kicked. And by the time I had done several more projects with these guys, and the other thing that was kind of happening is that, you know, some other architects wanted to work with me, some other people wanted to work with me. And, you know, and I was doing that. And then the Renaissance guys were saying, well, what about us? You know, and well, you know, we taught you all this stuff and now you're sharing it with other architects. Well, no, I'm in demand. Everyone loves me. And, you know, so there was some stuff there, right? And Jim Urbina and Bruce Hepner left Renaissance Golf to do their own thing. I don't really want to get into or know that I should get into how that all went down. It's you know, completely up to Tom, you know, to tell that story. But those guys didn't, you know, I don't think Bruce really, like, I don't know, like we just didn't, you know, we never did any other work. I didn't work with Bruce on, you know, on some stuff that I figured I might get the call for. And then, you know, Jim, same story, right? You know, I'm like, well, what's wrong? And they're like, well, you know, you went and worked for other architects, Jim said. And I said, well, shit, I had to, Jim, you know, I'm trying to keep the lights on. I'm trying to, you know, and it's like, really? Well, I don't know. You know, we is that how you should have done that? I don't know. Who knows? Hindsight, who knows? Here's what I know. In 2021, Tom Doak sent me a copy of the book and he made this inscription. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud to have been part of something that for 20 years now, right? Because this is the 20th anniversary of Pacific Dunes opening. Because everyone would say, where, what? And now, you know, from what I understand, I talked to somebody the other day who said that the place is booked up for almost 2 years. That if you want to go to Bandon Dunes to play any of those golf courses, the place is booked up for 2 years. And that's insane. But at the same time, my heart, my mind, my whole thing says, God, so many people are going to get to experience links golf, and they're going to get to experience Ken Nice's style of greenkeeping and Jeff Sutherland's style of greenkeeping and all the other, you know, Michael Brower, all the guys that are up there that are Brewer, that, you know, everybody that's working under Ken, you know, who's just killing it, right? I mean, those golf courses are getting played a ton and they're just killing it. Jim Urbina did Old McDonald, and, you know, the grassing strategy changed there based on Ken's input, and it's all fescue and no brown top bent. And I think that's smart for that area. You know, Core and Crenshaw did the Sheep Ranch. One day I'll tell the whole Sheep Ranch story. But they've redone that. Now it's a thing. And the original Sheep Ranch was done with Doak and his guys. We'll talk about that one day. But, you know, Bill and Ben went, you know, made something cool up there, and golly, you guys, Links Golf is real. So as you watch the Open Championship, as you watch Paul Larson, as you see Royal St. George's, okay, and let's go back to that. And as you see pictures online of you know, them burning the bunker faces with torch, and, you know, the things that they do there, as you see a lot of brown grass, please remember that this is real, and this is an art form in and to and singularly of itself. And greenkeepers like Paul Larson, and everybody else who's working on this kind of ground, and it is its own unique thing, singularly unique. I'll say that again. They are singularly unique people as well. And they make it look easy, and it's not. You know, this transition, can I do this with my pointer? Yeah. This transition here, right here, between the rough and the, it's insane how hard it is to make this work. It's insane how to make this work. And it's insane how to make this work and how to make those bunkers fit into the mowing lines. There's so much to it, right? So when you watch the Open Championship, please watch it with a different eye. And you're going to see greatness. You really are. You're going to get it. Guys are going to get it. You're going to get it in a different way. And I'm glad I got to share my stories. And it's not all about me. You know, what I want to do is I want to teach. And as I'm getting a little bit older, and as I'm starting to slow down a little bit in my career, and as I'm doing different things in my community, as I'm, you know, becoming a different human, it's really important to me that I show and talk and teach about these experiences that I did. I mean, 25 years ago, I didn't know what the fuck I was looking at when I looked at something like this. Now I get it, right? I get it deeply. And I'm hoping that I can spread that love and spread that information, and that you guys will see how being passionate about this kind of thing, for me, leads to a different kind of passion in golf. It leads to a different kind of passion in sport. It leads to a different kind of passion in environmental work and how to treat the environment and how to be part of what it is. Look how this is part of the whole part of the whole, right? Now, I realize a lot of you listening, you don't have that option, right? You know, and that the municipal course stuck amongst the houses and all that sort of stuff is not going to ever be this. We get that. I get that. But please remember to just look, open your eyes in a different way and see that there may be ways that you can become more biological, ecological. And lastly, this, okay? And lastly, this. Because this was a huge lesson for me. And for a lot of years, I was not myself. And the self that I put out there and showed to everybody was not necessarily who I am. It was who I was crafting, but who I am. Look at Paul Larson. This is who he is. And he's not afraid to get, you know, in front of the world and say, yeah, man, I'm, you know, my hair is an ode to Robert Smith because, you know, I love The Cure. And then the product speaks for itself, right? And the product is fucking amazing. And as you look at all of these cats, you know, however the shadow that they cut, one of the things that I love about the UK, and I hope all of you big members and everybody, you know, I hope you're hearing this, and I hope I have an open invitation to your world because I'm saying it, but I love the individuality and all those sorts of things. And if you're not doing the Paul Larson thing, you're not doing this in your own way. I'm not saying everybody's got to go Robert Smith, and I'm not saying everybody has to go Turfgrass Zealot, right? I'm just saying be you. It's okay to be you. It's okay to cry. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to be have laughter. It's okay to love your staff. All of these things are okay. And don't miss the opportunity, right? Paul Larson's taking his opportunity. He's taking it well. And I think that's a good thing. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you for the great comment. Great listen, my first time, and I will be back. Well, good. Because my passion is I'm going to do this every Saturday. And I said I was going to do it whether one person or, you know, hundreds of people listen. You can do me a huge favor by liking the thing, subscribing. Doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps the algorithm. Okay? I can see that my internet connection is flipping out a little bit. So I think it's a good time to end. My name is Dave Wilber. My friends call me the Turfgrass Zealot. And I hope you heard a little bit of my passion today. Yes, we went long. I knew it was going to go long today. I knew we were going to go long. If you're having trouble with this, as I see the server, this is on the YouTube side. I see it kind of going wacko. Just remember that the recording is there. Recording is there for you. And, you can hear that anytime. And again, share it around, right? If there's something that you see that you like, share it around, and maybe I'll cut this up into some segments and do that sort of thing. So there it is. I'm doing this on my own. I'm doing this out of love and passion. I'm doing this because, like Paul Larson, I feel like being myself is the right way to have a life. And I encourage you to do the same thing. All right, you guys, that's it for me. That is it for me. Please have a really, really great week. Please take good care of yourselves. Please remember who you are. I love you all. I'm looking at the chat to see if anybody has anything that they want to say or bring up. It doesn't kind of look like it. And again, I'm watching the YouTube servers shit the bed, so who knows how that all goes. Good. Nothing else in the chat. Nothing else going on. Thank you very much. Have a great week. I love you all. My name is Dave Wilber. I'm the Turfgrass Zealot. Talk to you later.